The scent of coffee pulled me out of sleep like it always did. Sharp, bitter, comforting. But this morning, something about it was off. Too strong, maybe. Darker. Not the light vanilla roast Laura usually brewed. The one she insisted reminded her of college mornings and slow Sundays. No, this was different. Richer. Smokier. Like someone else's taste had entered the room before I had. I padded down the hall barefoot, rubbing my eyes. The hardwood felt cold under my feet, and a chill sat in the air like the window had been left cracked all night. October mornings had started to bite. The way they always did once summer gave up its final breath. I pulled my hoodie tighter, the one she always stole because she liked how it smelled like my cologne even after the wash. The kitchen light was already on. That was the second thing. Laura was never the first one up. But there she was, standing at the counter, framed in soft amber light, her hair still messy from sleep or maybe a late night I hadn't stayed up for. She didn't look up when I entered. Her fingers were tapping quietly on her phone, scrolling through something with that faint little smirk she made when reading a private joke. A smile that belonged to someone else. She was wearing a hoodie. Not mine. Definitely not mine. It hung low on her frame, the sleeves bunched at the wrists, oversized in a way that no women's cut would be. Gray with a dark navy blue logo stamped across the chest. Pittsburgh Rowing Club. I blinked at it for a second. It didn't click. Neither of us had ever been to Pittsburgh. We didn't know anyone from Pittsburgh. I'd never seen that hoodie in the house before. New hoodie? I asked, keeping my voice casual. She looked up too quickly, startled, like she'd forgotten I lived here. Oh yeah, she said, brushing her hair back with her free hand. Someone left it at the office gym. I grabbed it after my workout last week. It was just sitting there. No one claimed it. Pittsburgh, I said, eyebrows raised. Bit of a stretch for a local gym. She gave a light laugh, the kind that sounded like it was meant to close a door, not invite more questions. Guess someone's from out of town. And just like that, she went back to her phone. Conversation over. I stepped further into the kitchen, still foggy from sleep, but that little exchange pulled me halfway into full consciousness. Something about the way she answered. It had a rehearsed edge. Too clean. Too ready. Like she'd already told the story once before. On the table were 2 coffee mugs. Hers was near her usual seat. Still full. Steam curling up in slow, lazy tendrils. The other mug, set just slightly across from hers, was already half finished. That stopped me in my tracks. It was small. Mundane even. Could have meant nothing. But then I saw the lipstick mark. Faint. Almost gone. But not the soft rose petal nude she wore most days. This one was darker. Plum-toned. Like something she'd wear on a night out when she wanted to feel bold. Or like something someone else would wear. Laura noticed my eyes lingering on the cup. She moved fast. Faster than made sense for a sleepy morning. With one smooth motion, she reached out, picked it up, and wiped the rim with the sleeve of that unfamiliar hoodie. Like it was nothing. Like I'd imagined it. She didn't even glance up at me while she did it. Did you already have a cup? I asked, nodding toward it. She mumbled, pretending not to hear. The second mug. Oh, yeah. I poured one earlier but didn't like it. Too strong. I was half awake. Dumped it out and made fresh. I nodded slowly, my gaze still fixed on that sleeve, now concealing whatever mark had been there. She moved to rinse the cup, then dropped it into the sink like it hadn't even happened. I didn't say anything else, but I saw the way her shoulders twitched slightly, an involuntary shift, like her body was reacting before her mind could mask it. I saw the way her hand shook just a little as she lifted her own mug to her lips, holding it in both hands like she needed the heat to anchor her. Her mouth pressed to the rim, but she didn't drink, just held it there. She was pretending not to notice I was still watching her. And I was pretending not to notice she was pretending. For a minute, neither of us spoke. The only sound was the faint hum of the fridge and the quiet ticking of the wall clock above the pantry door. Tick, tick, tick. She looked up again and gave me a smile, quick and tight. The kind you flash at a neighbor in passing. or a coworker in an awkward elevator ride. "Do you work from home today?" she asked. "Yeah," I said. "Why?" "No reason," she replied, glancing at her phone again. "I just might have to head out early. Got a project kickoff this morning." She said it too quickly, like it had just popped into her head, but I'd heard her calendar the night before when she read it out loud from the couch. First meeting was at 10. This kickoff thing was new. "Where's the meeting?" I asked. She shrugged as she slipped her phone into the pocket of the hoodie. "Just downtown. Same client I've been working with. You don't know them." I almost asked which client, but I didn't. Instead, I just sipped my coffee. The bitter roast sat on my tongue like something had burned. Or maybe I just lost my taste for it. I watched her move around the kitchen, placing her cup down, grabbing her keys, opening a drawer, closing it again. All of it done with a quiet urgency, like she was trying to stay busy, like the silence between us had weight. As she turned to leave, she paused in the doorway and looked back. "I'll text you later," she said. "You always do," I replied, and it came out colder than I meant it. She hesitated, just for a second, then gave a small nod and walked out the front door. The sound of it closing echoed through the hallway like punctuation. Final. Sharp. I stood there for a while after she left. Just me, the kitchen, and the faint trace of unfamiliar perfume I hadn't noticed until she was gone. Something citrusy. Not the one she wore on our anniversary last month. Not the one I bought her. Something else entirely. The door clicked shut behind her, and the house fell still again. I stood there with my coffee in hand, not drinking it. The silence had weight to it now, too clean, too deliberate. Like the quiet after a lie, not peace. I moved back to the table and sat down in the same seat I always did. The one that gave me a view of the window and the little maple tree in the yard that had started shedding its leaves early. They scattered like little flames across the lawn. Fall had come in fast this year, but I barely saw it. All I could think about was the hoodie. Pittsburgh Rowing Club. A man's hoodie, for sure, too broad at the shoulders to be a woman's, even oversized. The way she wore it like it meant something, like it was hers now, but not in the way you grab a lost item from the gym and forget about it. No, this had presence. She'd chosen to wear it this morning, in our kitchen, in front of me. That meant something. And the coffee. 2 cups. One with lipstick. Not hers. At least not the shade I knew. Dark mauve, maybe? And she wiped it away like it burned her. That part stayed with me. I tried to brush it off. I really did. Tried to be rational. Maybe she'd reused a cup from the dishwasher. Maybe it really was just a gym hoodie left behind. People forget things. Maybe she was just tired, and the trembling in her hand meant nothing. But my gut had already moved on from giving her the benefit of the doubt. It wasn't one thing. It was the accumulation. Like how she'd been working late more often, coming home long after I'd gone to bed. First, I believed her. She was ambitious, always had been. Deadlines, launches, strategy calls with overseas clients. It made sense. But lately it had shifted. The reasons got vaguer. Meetings with consultants, spontaneous team happy hours, last-minute brainstorming dinners. She'd never mention names. Not once. Her phone never left her hand anymore. She used to leave it on the nightstand, plugged in and forgotten while we watched shows or read before bed. Now it stayed face down next to her or tucked in her hoodie pocket. She angled the screen away when she texted, even when she didn't need to. One night I asked her who she was chatting with so late. She smiled and said it was her boss, then immediately asked if I wanted popcorn. The way she redirected, that's what stuck out. Not the lies, but how smooth she was getting at navigating around them. Like she'd practiced. Even her scent had changed. She'd started wearing a new perfume, sharper, floral with a kick of spice. Something I never would have picked for her. Something that didn't smell like her. The first time I noticed, it was a Sunday morning, after she got back from grabbing coffee with a friend. I hugged her from behind and caught it on her collar. She said it was a sample she got for free at a skincare place. She said she didn't even like it. But then she wore it again. And again. I never asked twice. Didn't want to seem paranoid. Didn't want to hear myself sounding like someone who checked her location or went through her texts. I wasn't that guy. I told myself that over and over. But the signs kept stacking. She'd started saying things like, "We've just both been busy lately." Or, "I think couples go through seasons like this." Once she even said, "Sometimes people grow in different directions." Like she was gently trying to frame a break before it happened. I remember I just nodded and changed the subject. I wasn't ready for where that road would take us. Lately, I found myself listening more closely to her tone, watching her eyes when she spoke, looking for cracks. I used to just hear her. Now I studied her. That's what the unease does. It turns everything into a clue. Every laugh that doesn't come easily, every excuse that sounds too neat, every glance that lingers a moment too long at nothing in particular. And maybe the most damning part, she had started sleeping farther away in bed. Subtly at first, a few inches, then a full pillow. Then we were on opposite sides of the mattress, two bodies orbiting different moons. She'd turn away from me, curl up, and stay that way all night. No more half asleep reaching for my arm. No more murmured goodnights with a hand on my chest. Just quiet, controlled breathing. The kind you do when you're awake but pretending not to be. One night, I caught her deleting a message. She didn't know I saw it. I'd walked into the room while brushing my teeth, and she was on the couch. The second I came around the corner, she lowered her phone, tapped once, and it was gone. Just like that. Her expression didn't change. She asked me what we were doing for dinner, like nothing had happened. I said nothing, but inside me, something shifted. A slow internal retreat. I told myself I'd wait, watch, observe, because if I was wrong, if I said something too soon and it turned out to be nothing, I'd be the bad guy, the insecure one, the husband who can't trust his own wife. But the more I watched, the more the inconsistencies added up. She had started answering questions I hadn't asked, offering information without prompts, randomly mentioning where she'd been, even when I hadn't brought it up. We grabbed lunch after the meeting, just me and Sarah from the design team. Or my phone died earlier, in case you texted. But I hadn't texted. She was over-explaining, and that wasn't like her. I tried writing it off as stress. Work had been relentless for both of us. I figured maybe she just needed space. Time to reset. Maybe it was me. Maybe I'd gotten lazy, comfortable. We weren't going on dates like we used to. Life had become predictable, routines built on default instead of intention. I thought about planning something. Flowers, a weekend trip, some grand gesture to pull us back into place. But even that felt naive now, like putting a fresh coat of paint over a wall that was already rotting from the inside. That morning, after she left, I sat at the kitchen table for an hour. I couldn't shake the image of that second mug, that smear of unfamiliar lipstick. The way she wiped it clean like she was erasing a sentence before I could read it. And the hoodie, that hoodie, it didn't belong in our house. But it had been worn here, slept in maybe. Something about it felt recent. I opened my laptop, thinking I might distract myself with emails or work, but my fingers just hovered above the keyboard. Instead, I pulled up my calendar and opened hers beside it. We shared access, an old habit from when we were both working remote and trying to juggle overlapping meetings. I hadn't looked in a while. Now I did. Her calendar looked normal: meetings, calls, a few project deadlines. But in the gaps, I noticed a pattern. Blocks of busy time with no notes. 30 minutes here, an hour there. Always during the day. Always on repeat. I clicked into one, nothing but personal in the title. Another one marked simply hold. And she never used those labels before. I closed the laptop and leaned back in my chair. The quiet around me had changed. It wasn't the quiet of peace. It was the quiet before the storm. I still hadn't accused her. Hadn't even asked a real question. But I already knew something had cracked. The unease wasn't just growing. It was blooming. Quietly. Methodically. Like rot behind wallpaper. Something was happening. I just didn't know how deep it went. Yet, it happened on a Thursday. The kind of gray, unremarkable afternoon where the sky hangs low and makes the whole world feel smaller, closer, harder to breathe in. I'd left work early, not planned, not even for a real reason. Just a growing restlessness that had been building for days, scratching at the inside of my skull, telling me I needed to move, needed to go. So I drove home. I didn't tell Laura I was coming. She thought I had back-to-back calls until 6. I told myself I was just tired, that maybe I'd surprise her and we'd do something spontaneous for once. Dinner out, maybe a drink, something to snap us out of whatever we'd become lately. But as I turned the corner onto our street, all those harmless intentions dropped dead in my chest. There was a car parked in our driveway. Not mine, not hers. Dark blue, Acura. Windows tinted, the kind of tint that's just dark enough to raise questions. It was parked too close to the garage, like it had arrived quickly and not with much care. I slowed the car as I approached. My heartbeat didn't spike. Not yet. My first thought was rational, maybe a friend, maybe someone from work. But Laura hadn't said anyone was coming by, and we never had visitors during the week. We barely had them on weekends anymore. Still, I parked a little further down the street. Got out quietly. The house looked normal from the outside, curtains drawn, front door closed, blinds tilted just enough to block the view inside. But there was light, a soft flicker behind the bedroom window upstairs. Our bedroom. I stood there for a moment, halfway up the walk, holding my breath like someone was about to fire a starting pistol. Then I heard it. Not clear words, just laughter. Light, unguarded. Laura's voice. I knew it like I knew my own. But it sounded different. Relaxed in a way I hadn't heard in weeks. Months, maybe. It came from the back of the house. I stepped around the side, the way I always did when I forgot my keys. The side gate was slightly ajar. Pushed it open, slow and silent. My feet crunched against the gravel path that wrapped toward the patio and the sliding glass doors. They were closed, but not locked. The curtain inside was half drawn. Enough for me to see shadows moving in the hallway. A figure crossed toward the stairs. I didn't catch a face, just height, shape. A man. He laughed, low and muffled. Then Laura again. Clearer now. Shoo! The neighbors. Something in me just froze. No more guessing. No more building stories in my head. No more maybe this or maybe that. It was happening. Right now. In my house. In our bed. I slipped inside. Didn't slam the door. Didn't call out. I just stepped through the kitchen, down the hallway, like I'd done 1,000 times. But this time the walls felt foreign. Like the whole house had shifted a few degrees without me noticing. Her coat was hanging on the chair in the hallway. Not the hook. Just tossed over it like she'd come home in a rush. Next to it, draped like it belonged, was a men's jacket. Black. Wool. It looked expensive. A small tag stitched on the inside collar read Burrell and Sons. I'd never seen it before. I didn't need to. The stairs creaked under my weight, betraying me with every step. But I didn't stop. My hands were cold, fists clenched at my sides without me realizing it. Not in anger, just to keep them from shaking. The bedroom door was open just a crack. Enough to hear everything. The laughter again, closer now. Then a whisper, soft and playful, that made my stomach clench. She said his name. Randall. I didn't recognize the name. Not a friend. Not a coworker she'd mentioned. Not someone from our world. And yet here he was in the space we shared. In the bed where we once whispered about the future, about kids, about growing old. I didn't open the door. I didn't walk in and shout. Didn't demand answers or throw punches. I just stood there, a few feet away from the line I could never uncross. I heard the shift of sheets. Movement. Their voices dropped to murmurs. There was no need for translation. I already knew the story. And with that, I turned around. I didn't even close the door behind me. I walked back down the stairs slowly, the way you move when you're walking through the ruins of something you once loved. My heart didn't pound. My thoughts weren't racing. It was the stillest I'd felt in weeks. Calm so absolute it almost frightened me. Outside, the wind had picked up. Leaves scattered across the driveway, dancing around the tires of the car that didn't belong there. I sat in mine, engine off. Watched the house in silence. No calls. No texts. Just silence. I don't know how long I sat there. Maybe 10 minutes. Maybe an hour. I kept expecting to feel something dramatic. Rage, betrayal, heartbreak. But all I felt was this low, steady weight. Not sharp enough to scream. Just heavy enough to keep me from moving. I thought about the hoodie again. The coffee cup. The meetings. The deleted messages. I thought about the way she looked at her phone like it held more of her life than I did. About how she used to kiss me on the shoulder in the morning before I woke up. About the last time we laughed together, really laughed, and how I couldn't even remember what it was about. It had all been slipping away piece by piece, like watching water drain from a tub you thought was still full. I turned the key in the ignition, but I didn't drive. Not yet. I needed to sit in this moment, to remember it exactly as it was. Because from here on out, everything would be different. No more wondering. No more doubts. I had seen the proof. And it had broken something I didn't even realize was still holding on. I didn't go back inside. Couldn't. Even though my name was still on the deed. Even though my clothes were in the closet. And my toothbrush sat in the cup by the sink. I no longer belonged in that house. I sat behind the wheel of my car, motionless. The house loomed in front of me. Lights glowing behind the blinds like everything was normal inside. It wasn't. I knew that now. I'd known for a while. But knowing and seeing, those are two entirely different things. The stillness hit harder than I expected. No explosion of emotion. No outburst. Just a long, cold breath. Like stepping into a winter morning without a coat. You brace for the chill, but it still cuts deeper than you thought it would. I didn't cry. I didn't shout. I didn't even grip the steering wheel tighter. Instead, I just sat there and watched the window until the light went out. It wasn't symbolic. It wasn't poetic. It was just practical. The end of a moment. The final clue that whatever was happening inside had finished for now. The betrayal had already happened. It didn't need to be caught in the act. It had been playing out long before I opened that door. And that was the hardest part to swallow. It hadn't started today. It started weeks ago. Maybe months. Maybe even before I noticed. And while I was spending nights trying to reconnect with her, trying to resuscitate something I thought was just bruised, she had already made her decision. Quietly, steadily. She hadn't broken the marriage with a hammer. She disassembled it, bolt by bolt, screw by screw, until all that remained was the shell. I saw it now. The late-night phone calls she took in the bathroom, whispering through steam. The vague work trips where the destinations didn't match the receipts. The way she no longer made space for me on the couch. How her body angled away, knees drawn up like a barricade. And still, I had convinced myself it was stress. Burnout. A phase. But betrayal doesn't wear a neon sign. Tiptoes. It smiles. Tells you everything is fine while the foundation rots beneath your feet. Tonight just confirmed what my instincts had been screaming for weeks. The pieces lined up in my head like a completed puzzle, the kind you don't want to finish because you know you'll hate the image it reveals. Her growing distance, her guarded phone, the new perfume she claimed was a free sample, the hoodie, the second coffee mug, the name Randall. Every detail had an explanation when she gave it. But tonight, I saw the truth. All the careful lies unraveled in an instant. It wasn't the affair itself that destroyed me. It was the months of deception she wove to protect it. And the worst part? She didn't even look guilty. She sounded happy. Like the woman I used to know. The one who used to laugh with me in the kitchen while cooking pasta or sing out of key on road trips. That laugh had returned. But it wasn't for me. She'd found joy in someone else. In someone she had invited into the life we built together. That realization settled in my chest like a stone in deep water. Heavy, cold, final. I started the engine, the sound breaking the quiet like a crack of thunder. I pulled away from the curb without looking back. I didn't need to. Whatever lived behind those walls now had nothing to do with me. I didn't know where I was going, only where I couldn't be. I drove past the places that used to mean something. The coffee shop where we'd spent Sunday mornings, reading the paper and trading sips. The little bookstore where we once argued about whether or not to adopt a dog. The gas station where we'd kissed in the car during a thunderstorm because neither of us wanted to go inside yet. Each one of those places felt haunted now, like memories trapped behind glass. Eventually, I ended up at a 24-hour diner just outside of town. One of those places with cracked vinyl booths and tired waitresses who don't ask questions. I slid into a booth in the far corner and ordered a coffee I didn't want, just to have something in my hands. The place was mostly empty, save for a trucker nursing a burger at the counter and a young couple whispering over pancakes. I watched the cream swirl in my cup and wondered when exactly I had become this man. Sitting alone at midnight, numb, lost, trying to stitch together a story that no longer belonged to me. Laura's betrayal didn't feel like a stab. Felt like frostbite, slow, creeping, painless at first until you looked down and realized something essential had died while you weren't looking. I didn't text her, didn't call, didn't storm back in with accusations or ultimatums. What would be the point? She knew what she was doing, and now so did I. This wasn't about catching her. It was about clarity. Cold, brutal, necessary clarity. That night, in that booth, I realized something I hadn't been ready to admit until then. She had stopped loving me long before she slept with someone else. The physical betrayal was just the echo. The real damage had already been done. She had slowly started living a life without me, and I hadn't even noticed I wasn't in it anymore. And maybe, just maybe, that was on me too. I sat in that booth until the sky started to pale and the streetlights flickered off one by one. The waitress brought me a refill, which I didn't drink, and gave me a soft look. She didn't ask if I was okay. I appreciated that. When I finally stood up, I left a 20 on the table, even though the bill was barely $6. I didn't need the change. I just needed to leave something behind. Driving home, the world felt quieter. The roads were empty. The town was asleep. And when I reached our street again, I didn't turn toward the house. I kept going. Drove past it like it didn't matter. Because it didn't. Not anymore. At least not in the way it used to. That house had stopped being a home the moment it held a secret louder than truth. Eventually, I pulled into a motel on the edge of town. Cheap, plain. The kind of place where people go when they need a pause, not a destination. I handed my card to the man at the front desk and didn't bother to fake a smile. He didn't ask why I was there. He just gave me a key and pointed down the hallway. Room 203. For walls, a bed, a flickering lamp, a dent in the wall, and a TV bolted to the dresser. And for now, that would be enough. I sat on the edge of the bed, shoes still on, phone still in my pocket, heart still beating, barely. I didn't message Laura. I didn't check if she noticed I was gone, because I knew she hadn't. Not really. She was too far gone to miss me, and I was finally far enough to let her go. The motel room had a humming silence, the kind that settles into your bones. I spent the first night staring at the ceiling. The air conditioner clicked on and off every 30 minutes, and the sheets felt like paper, too stiff, too clean, too foreign. But it was a quiet kind of misery, and I preferred it to the noise of pretending things were still okay. When the sun rose, I was already dressed. No plan, no destination, just instinct. I needed to go back. Not to see her, God no, but to understand. Not the emotional kind of understanding, but the cold, factual kind. Dates, times, proof. I waited until I knew she'd be gone. By 8, the house would be empty. Her car, a silver hybrid, was already off the driveway when I pulled up. She always parked too close to the left, habit. I sat for a moment, just staring at the front door, the porch where we used to drink coffee together in spring. It looked the same, but everything had changed. The key still worked. That hurt more than I expected. Inside, the air smelled like eucalyptus and a hint of lavender, her new diffuser. The old sandalwood scent I used to love was gone, replaced, like everything else. I moved quietly, not because I needed to, but because the house felt like a place I no longer had permission to disturb. Every step was careful, surgical. I didn't know exactly what I was looking for, just that I needed to find something she couldn't deny, something that would make the reality final in my mind in black and white. Her laptop was on the desk in the guest room, the same spot she used for remote work. The wallpaper was a photo of the two of us at the lake, from 2 summers ago, her smile wide, my arms around her shoulders. A moment frozen just before everything began to slip. I hovered the mouse. No password. That told me something right there. Not that she trusted me, no. She didn't expect I'd ever come looking. She assumed I'd keep playing the part. The safe, predictable husband. That gave her confidence. Or maybe it gave her cover. Her desktop was pristine. Just a few folders. One was labeled Trips, Work 2023. The kind of folder title you skip past without thinking twice. But I clicked it. It opened to subfolders. Each one marked by month. January, February, March. I opened April. My birthday was in April. She'd been gone that weekend on a retreat. Inside were receipts. Neatly organized PDFs. *TS of bookings. A full itinerary from a boutique hotel 2 cities over. I scrolled. Check-in, April 14th. Guests, Laura Grant, Randall Cormick. Room type, King Suite with soaking tub. I stared at the screen for a long time. Randall. There it was again. His name printed beside hers like it belonged there. No aliases. No guest. Just Randall Cormick. Full transparency, as if she never expected anyone but herself to see it. I opened May. Same story. Then June. Photos this time. Not hidden. Not disguised. Just dropped into folders like Vacation Snapsh *TS. One showed a blurry mirror selfie. Laura in that same Pittsburgh hoodie. Her phone blocking half her face. Her smile visible just around the corner of the screen. In the reflection behind her, a man's arm. Tan skin, toned. Resting casually around her waist like it had always belonged there. His face wasn't visible. But I didn't need to see it. It wasn't the image that gutted me, it was the ease. The comfort in it. The way her body leaned back into his. Relaxed, like nothing about it felt wrong. There were more photos. One on a beach. Another from a rooftop bar. Always framed to exclude him just enough. But his presence was there. In the hand holding the drink beside hers. In the towel wrapped around 2 chairs. In the shadows on the wall. I kept clicking. I told myself I would stop after the next one. Then the next. But I didn't. It was like watching a fire you couldn't put out. Horrible, mesmerizing. Final. The last thing I opened was an email chain. The subject line read, Best weekend in a long time. Randall. I keep thinking about that night in the pool. You were right, it felt like we were the only 2 people in the world. You said you hadn't laughed like that in years. I hope you meant it. I've never wanted something to last more than I want this to. Laura, I did mean it. I mean all of it. I don't know what that says about me. Maybe I'm selfish. Maybe I'm a coward. But when I'm with you, I feel like I can finally breathe again. I didn't expect this, and I don't know how to undo it without tearing something else apart. Randall, then don't undo it. Just be here. With me. The rest will figure itself out. I stopped reading. I closed the lid of the laptop slowly, like I was afraid it might burn my hands. I felt hollow, like all the emotion had drained out of me and what was left behind was just air and echo. She wasn't confused. She wasn't unsure. She was gone. Just like that. And the truth? She'd already decided. This wasn't an affair she regretted. It was a life she had stepped into. One photo, one email, one hotel room at a time. I stood in the middle of our living room and looked around like it was a museum exhibit. The blanket she always curled up with. The dog-eared book I gave her that she never finished. A framed photo of us from our engagement shoot. She looked so happy in it. People always commented on that smile. I saw it again now, just not with me. The couch cushions were still indented from where she'd sat the night before. Probably with him. Probably watching a movie like we used to. Eating popcorn with too much butter. Laughing. Whispering. Living a life I wasn't invited into anymore. I didn't rage. I didn't flip the table or smash the photos or scream into the void. I packed a bag. Just a few things. Some clothes. My journal. My charger. Nothing from this house that held any weight. Not anymore. Every item here had fingerprints I no longer trusted. Before I left, I sat at the desk one last time. Opened the drawer where we used to keep stamps and sticky notes. I pulled out a blank sheet of printer paper and wrote her a note. Just 12 words. You don't need to lie anymore. I've seen everything. It's yours now. I didn't sign it. I didn't have to. I left it on her pillow, right next to the spot she hadn't touched in weeks. And then I walked out. The sun was higher now, burning off the last of the morning fog. My car felt warmer than it should have for October. I sat in it, door open, one hand resting on the wheel. I took a deep breath. It didn't fix anything, but it felt like the first one I'd taken in weeks. I didn't confront her. No fights, no tears. I packed my things, left the note on her pillow, and drove. For days, I stayed at a cheap motel outside town. On the third night, I watched the house from down the street. He arrived. She let him in. 10 minutes later, the lights went out. That was all I needed. Not anger, just confirmation. There was nothing left to save. I mailed her the proof, receipts, photos, emails. On the last page, I wrote, "Now you can live openly. I'm no longer part of this story." She never replied. I moved to a new city, started over above a bakery. I run by the river, drink black coffee, and read before sunrise. I didn't forgive her. I simply stopped carrying her with me. Peace didn't come from closure. Came from leaving and never looking back.